My love story with Kieran began like a fairy tale. I was an aspiring artist, and he was this charming, successful businessman who swept me off my feet. Our first date was at a cozy little Italian restaurant, and I remember thinking he was the most genuine person I'd ever met. He listened, he laughed at my silly jokes, and he made me feel like I was the only person in the world. Within a year, we were married. I packed up my life, my pains, and my dreams, and moved into his beautiful home. I thought this was it, my happily ever after. Kieran was always busy with work. He traveled a lot, sometimes for weeks at a time. I understood. His career was demanding, and I was proud of him. I spent my days turning our house into a home, painting in my studio, and waiting for his calls. When he was home, he was the perfect husband, attentive, loving, and supportive of my art. He'd bring me flowers, plan romantic dinners, and tell me how much he missed me while he was away. I never had a reason to doubt him. Our life was perfect. Or so I believed. The first crack in our perfect life appeared on our 5th anniversary. Kieran was supposed to be on a business trip in Singapore. He called me that morning, sounding tired but happy, wishing me a happy anniversary and promising to make it up to me when he got back. Later that day, I was scrolling through a friend's social media feed when I saw a picture that made my heart stop. It was a group photo from a charity gala in our own city held just the night before. And there, in the background, unmistakable, was my husband, Kieran. But he wasn't alone. His arm was wrapped around a woman, and they were both smiling, looking comfortable and familiar. My husband, who was supposed to be halfway across the world. My first reaction was denial. It couldn't be him. It must be a look-alike, a trick of the light. I zoomed in, my hand trembling so much I could barely hold my phone. The sharp cut of his suit, the watch I bought him for his last birthday, it was him. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe he came back early to surprise me, but who was that woman? Why was he there at a gala when he told me he was working? A cold, heavy dread settled in my stomach. I called his phone, but it went straight to voicemail, the same cheerful message he always had. "Hi, you've reached Kieran. Leave a message." The cheerfulness felt like a mockery. I couldn't sleep that night. I replayed every conversation, every trip, every late night at the office in my head. Were there other signs I'd missed? The vague answers about his meetings? The times his phone was off for hours? I had always chalked it up to his demanding job, to international travel. I had trusted him completely. Now, that trust felt like a foundation of sand, washing away with every wave of doubt. I felt like a fool. A naive, trusting fool who had built her entire world around a man who might be a complete stranger. The next morning I decided I needed proof. I couldn't confront him based on a blurry photo. I felt like a spy in my own home, my hands shaking as I went through his home office, a room he always called his sanctuary. In the back of his filing cabinet, tucked away in a folder labeled Old Tax Records, I found it. It wasn't tax records. It was a stack of papers. A lease agreement for an apartment in a neighborhood I'd never heard of, utility bills for that same address, and credit card statements filled with purchases I knew nothing about, expensive jewelry, dinners at restaurants we'd never been to, even children's toys. The name on the statements was his, but the billing address was for the other apartment. My breath caught in my throat. Children's toys? I scrolled through the dates on the statements. They lined up perfectly with his business trips. The Singapore trip, the Tokyo conference, the Frankfurt trade show, all lies. He hadn't been flying across the world. He'd been driving across town. The final blow came when I found a small leather-bound photo album at the bottom of the drawer. I opened it, and my world shattered. There was Kieran smiling with the same woman from the gala photo. And with them were 2 young children, a boy and a girl, laughing and playing in a park. They looked like a family. A happy, complete family. My husband had another family. He had built an entire separate life, a parallel universe where I didn't exist. He wasn't just cheating. He was living a lie so complete, so intricate, It made my head spin. I wasn't just a wife. I was part of a double life. The woman, the children, they were real. They had a father and a husband who came home to them, who bought them toys and took them to the park. What was I? I was the other woman in my own marriage. The realization was a physical blow. I sank to the floor, the photos scattered around me, and I just couldn't breathe. Every memory we had shared was now tainted, every I love you, a lie. When Kieran came home a few days later, tanned and smiling, holding a souvenir he'd supposedly bought for me in Singapore, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I was eerily calm. I had spent the past few days swinging between rage and despair, but now, seeing him stand there, acting like nothing was wrong, all I felt was a cold, hard resolve. I laid the photos and the documents out on the dining room table, our dining room table where we shared so many meals. I watched as his smile faded, as the color drained from his face. The charming, confident man I married disappeared, replaced by a corner stranger. He tried to explain, to make excuses. He said it was complicated, that he loved me, that he loved them, that he didn't want to hurt anyone. But his words were hollow. How could you love someone and deceive them so completely? How could you build a home with one person while you had another one waiting across town? He hadn't just broken my heart. He had invalidated our entire life together. It was all a performance, and I had been an unwitting actor in his play. I told him to leave, to pack a bag and go to his other life, his real life. This one, our life, was over. The days that followed were a blur of lawyers, packing boxes, and the sympathetic, pitying looks of friends. Rebuilding my life from the ashes of his deceit has been the hardest thing I've ever done. Some days, the anger is all that keeps me going. Other days, the sadness is a weight I can barely carry. But through it all, I started painting again. Not landscapes or still lifes, but raw emotional canvases filled with the chaos and pain I was feeling. My art became my voice, my therapy. It's a long road, and I know the scars will always be there. But I'm no longer the naive girl who fell for a fairy tale. I'm a survivor, and I'm slowly canvas by canvas painting my own future, a future that is finally truly my own. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, please know you're not alone. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.